Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we will be talking about the movie Jumanji. Now Jumanji starts off with these two boys named Benjamin and Caleb, and they are in the woods trying to bury a board game. But this is not just any old board game, this is Jumanji. And when they're burying it, Benjamin gets caught in the hole with the game, and he can feel the game pulling him in the hole, and he's like, Caleb, help me. So Caleb helps pull him out of the hole where they started digging, and they placed Jumanji in it. And Caleb says, I got you. So Benjamin is kind of like me. I'll be like, okay, this guy wants to pull me in, I'm out. So Benjamin says, come on, let's get out of here. And then Caleb says, no, Benjamin, we have to finish burying it. Now help me bury it. So they bury it. Oh, and I have to tell you, this takes place in 1869. So they bury it, and then they go back home. But after they're finished, Benjamin says, what if somebody digs it up? And this is when Caleb says, may God have mercy on their soul. And then the boys go home in their horse and buggy, because this takes place in 1869. Hang on, let me turn my notes here, because I took notes, because there are two time zones that I had to memorize for this. So, 1969, no. 1869 has passed now. And now we are in the time zone of 1969. And we are in Brantford, New Hampshire. There we meet our character Alan Parrish. And he is being bullied by a couple of boys at school because Alan Parrish is talking to this girl Sarah, who the boy who was bullying him, that's his girlfriend. So, as Alan is crossing the street on his bike, the boys that are bullying him catch up to him and say, hey, Parrish, where are you running off to? And Alan runs to his dad's factory, where we meet Carl. Now, Carl is working on a shoe design, and he showed Alan. Then Alan's dad shows up, in the factory and says, Alan, what are you doing here? I told you before, the factory is no place to play. Now hurry home, son. But when his father comes, Alan accidentally puts the shoe on the conveyor belt, and the shoe ends up being destroyed, and so did the machine. And and Alan's dad says, "Who did this?" And then Carl takes the blame and says, "I did, sir." And then Alan goes outside, but he finds out that his bike has been destroyed by Sarah's boyfriend and the rest of his friends. And I cannot think of the guy. The guy. Oh, Billy. That's the bully's name. The bully's name is Billy. I cannot think of his name for a second there. So, when Billy said that he would be waiting, with his friends outside of the factory, and Billy also said, Go, Paris, run to Daddy, but you can't stay in there forever." After his dad tells him to go home, he does try to head on his way home, but Billy and his friends get him when he's about to turn on the street, and they beat him up, and they give him a black eye, but his dad gives him advice, and he says, sometimes a sometimes you just have to stand up to a bully and face it like a man. So, Billy beats up Alan. He gives him a black eye, and he makes his lip bleed. But we never see this. And before he goes home, Alan finds a game in the factory. He finds Jumanji. He takes it home with him, and when he gets home, he opens it. But then his mom comes in, so he hides the game under the couch, and his mom sees his eye and his lip, and his mother says, "Oh, Alan, not again." And so his father is off because his father is the guest of honor at this award ceremony. And then before his father leaves, he tells him, "Alan, if I would have known that it was more than," and he tells him, "If I would have known that it wasn't just Billy, I would have never told you to do that, and I'm sorry, son, but I have got to say I am proud of you. And his father gives him his his and his father and mother have decided that it is time for him to go to Cliffside University, a boarding school that he went to when he was Alan's age. And then Alan says, "This is great." The kids at school already give me a hard time because I am a Paris. Imagine what they are going to say when they find out that I am going to a school that's named after me. and then and 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 then Alan says, "You know, if it's such a great school, why don't you live in it?" And his brother said, "I did. I wouldn't be the man I am today if I didn't go to school there." And then Alan said, "Maybe I don't want to be like you. Maybe I don't even want to be a Paris." And his father and him have a fight, and his father says, "You won't be not until you start acting like one." And then the mother tries to chime in, but then Alan's father says for her to get her coat so they can leave. And he actually ends up ripping up the brochure, and he packs his stuff up, and he's about to run away when Sarah brings back his bike, and then Sarah says, "I told Billy to stop picking on you." And Alan and Alan and Alan and, and then Alan says, "Well, we're gonna have to talk about this another time," when he's on his way out the door. But then he hears the game again, and so does Sarah. So Alan and her try to roll the dice to play the game, and they start playing until they hear bats, because every time you read the game, animals come out of the game every time a person plays it. So, on Alan turns, on Alan's turn, or Sarah's turn, because Alex tells her about the game, and he asks Sarah if she wants to play. But Sarah says, "I stopped playing board games 5 years ago." And so she drops the dice, and she's about to walk away on her way to the door. But, 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 the game thought she rolled. So on her turn, so on her turn, bats come out, and then Alan rolls, and then the game says, "In the jungle you must wait till the dice roll 5 or 8." And then poor Alan gets sucked into the board game. And then Sarah gets chased out of Alan's house with another bat. When Alan was told by Sarah to put the game away, the game thought that he rolled again. And that's where the extra bat comes from. Anyway, it has been, it is now been 26 years, and time has passed, and a new family has moved in with their aunt called Julie and Peter after their parents passed. So, Julie and Peter find the game. They start playing, and all of a sudden, a lion comes out of the game at first. Well, then a mosquito comes out of the game at first. When they're on their way to school, their auntie tells them, "Do you have your house keys?" And then Julie says, "Yes, the bus will be here any minute. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for us." But, 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 Julie hears the game Jumanji again, and so does Peter. And they heard it last night when they first moved in. And to be honest, with you guys, I would be scared to play Jumanji because they show no fear. They show fear at first, but they show no fear playing the game. So, when they first moved in, Peter noticed a bat, the same bat Sarah saw in the 80s. But an exterminator comes and he says, "Well, there are no bats up here, ma'am. But that and then the auntie says, "See that? There's nothing to be afraid of in this house." But then the exterminator says, "Personally, I would not live in this house, and bats are not what I will be afraid of in this house anyway." And 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 in 1969, a boy named Aldous Parrish was murdered and stuffed in the walls. And I was like, dude, you are here to look at the house, to inspect the house, not scare children. So anyway, after they hear the noises of the game in the morning, just like they heard at nighttime, they go to investigate. They find the game in. Wait a minute. I got a question for you guys. So they find the game, right? Why isn't the game destroyed at all? That's why it was buried in the first place. Okay, so they find the game. Mosquitoes come out. Sarah's turn. Then a tiger comes out on Peter's turn. Then Robin Williams comes and he scares the lion away. And then he finds out that his parents have passed away. Such a sad, very sad scene. He finds out that his parents have passed away, and Julie and Peter have been living in his house, and they found out that he is Alan Paris, the guy that went missing, and the guy that everybody said who was stuffed in the walls. And then when he goes to the factory to try to find his dad, a guy that lives there says that the factory hasn't been closed down for years. Ever, 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 ever since Mr. Parrish has been trying to find his son, he never stopped looking for his son. And then when he couldn't find it, he just didn't care about coming to look anymore. So he goes, visits his parents' grave. And then Julie and Peter says, we know how you feel because we lost our parents too. And then Alan says, I bet you miss him, huh? Me too. Then he walks back to the house and 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 Judy tries to get him to play the game. You know, not to play but to watch. So they won't go through it alone. But the mosquitoes and the monkeys are still running wild. Oh, did I tell you they let monkeys out of the game? The mosquitoes and the monkeys are still running wild. And then they realize that they gotta work together. But when they go to replay the game, it's not Judy's turn or or Peter's turn. The other two pieces belong to Alan and Sarah. So they go find Sarah and they try to get Sarah to play the game. But Sarah has spent many years in therapy, and she talked herself into believing that 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 Alan wasn't alive, that his father got rid of him and actually chopped him up into little pieces. But Alan tells Sarah, well, Sarah, my father did that. My father could barely hug me. What makes you think that he could chalk me up into little pieces? And then he tricks Sarah into playing the game by saying, give me the dice and you can just go home. And she says, thank you, Alan. But when she tries to give Alan the dice, Alan makes her roll on purpose, and then a whole garden starts to grow. And then Sarah gets so scared that when she comes back to the house, she tries to walk away, but Alan gets her. And they are so busy arguing that they didn't even know that it was Judy's turn, because they're working together to fix everything. So Judy rolls, and then something else begins to happen. Oh, and do you know the auntie? Yeah, the auntie's been trying to find them because they skipped school, and she actually comes home to see her house destroyed. Oh, and Peter has turned into a monkey because he tried to cheat, because Alan got arrested by Carl, the guy who used to build the shoes. And Alan told him all of this, told him that he was sorry, told him that they had to finish the game, told him everything, and then just the whole house got destroyed. So now they are playing in the jungle. So when Alan got arrested, Peter tried to cheat and tried to make it roll on 12 at the very middle of the movie. And that's how he got turned into a monkey. And Alan tried to tell him, I tried to warn you, Peter. I tried to tell you what would have happened if you tried to cheat. And on it, and Alan and Al and Al and Al and Al and Alan and Alan looked at Peter and Al and Alan looks at Peter and says, I'm sorry. My dad always says, whenever you have a problem, you face it like a man. I'm sorry that I talked to you that way. I didn't need to hurt your feelings. And And I forgot to tell you guys this. When the elephants came out of the game, when the stampede happened, a army guy came out of the game, and he's after Alan for the game for some reason. Keep that in mind, because I have this theory that soldier is Alan's dad. I don't know, you guys. It's just a theory. It's just a theory. I think that soldier is Alan's dad, but that is just a theory. So the soldier is trying to get the game, so they run to the store after Alan gets arrested and tries to stop the guy for getting the game. And Sarah protects the kids from the guy in the store. They all work together to stop him for getting the game. Oh, and the only reason the only reason Alan was mad at Peter in the first place is because when they went to the river, a pelican got the game and Peter didn't grab it in time. But he apologizes, so it's all good. Meanwhile, at the store, Carl and Alan drive through the store. They drive through it, and they get everyone. Well, Carl disappeared. I don't know where Carl went. But the car gets eaten after Carl tries to make his way back to the home because Carl the shoemaker, who's a cop now, bumps he 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 actually bumps into their auntie, and Carl offers to take him to the house in the car, but the car gets eaten by a plant, so they run there. But although water is coming out and a river is coming out, and they are floating on doors and everything. And then Peter locks his auntie in the closet, which I think is really funny for some reason. I'm sorry, but that was just funny. So anyway, the soldier finally gets to Alan at the end. And actually, with his gun in hand, he says, "What's in your other hand? Drop it." So he drops the dice, and Alan reached the end of the game, and he called out Jumanji, and he says to the soldier, "I am not afraid. I gotta face what I'm afraid of." And then the soldier says, "Good lad, you're finally acting like a man." And then he says, "Jumanji." And then the game is over, and Alan and Sarah are back in 1968. And they hug each other, and Alan tells his dad, "Today in the factory, I was the one who put the shoe on the conveyor belt. Because Carl lost his job. Because Carl lost his job that day. That's why in the future he was a policeman. But right here and now, Alan, but right here and now, Alan says, Alan told his father, I was the one who put the shoe on the conveyor belt. And he hugged his father and says, I miss you so much. And then the father says, I only been gone 5 minutes. And then Alan says, it feels like a lot long. It feels like a lot longer than that. And then the father says, I thought you said you were never talking to me again. And then Alan says, whatever I said, I didn't mean it. And then his father tells him, look, you don't have to go to Cliffside if you don't want to. And the father says, well, I gotta get going on the guest of honor. But how about we talk about this tomorrow? Man to man. And then Alan says, how about father and son? And then the dad says, deal. And then Alan and Sarah and 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 and, and then and, then and, and, and then Alan and Sarah are walking Sarah home. Alan is walking with Sarah home, and Sarah said, you know, Alan, I think I am forgetting about what it is to be a kid. And then Alan says, well, me too. But that's okay, as long as we don't forget Julie and Peter. And then Sarah says, or each other, Alan, there is something I wanted to do, and I should do it before I feel too much like a kid. And so Sarah kisses him for the first time, and the kid, Alan, smiles. And then we cut to the future, where they are all adults, and Alan and Sarah are married, and Alan is talking to his father over the phone, and it is Christmas time, and they are going to pick him up from the airport tomorrow, and Julie and Peter's parents are alive, and they are working for Alan and Sarah because they started their own company, and Carl is there for the Christmas party as well, and they give Julie and they give Julie and Alan and they give Julie and Peter presents. And 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 Alan and Alan and Alan makes a mistake by saying, "You look just like we remember you." And then Sarah says, "Don't you mean what you told me last night about his family?" Oh, and then Alan says, "Oh yes, for what I told Sarah about your family when you came to work for me." And then They talk about going. They talk about going on a little. They talk about going on a little vacation. Uh, um, 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 and 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 and, and, and then Julian and 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 then Julie and Peter Pan talk about going on vacation. And then Alan and Sarah scream no. And then it seems like everybody heard them, but they try to laugh it off and say ha ha ha. Well, we need you to work on the well we need you to work on this project ASAP. And then and then the parents say we can start next week. And then Alan and Sarah give them a walk around the house. Walk around the house. That is Alan's house. That used to belong to Julie and Peter. And Alan says, my house, our house is your house. Oh, and Sarah, and Sarah and Alan are married. Anyway, when credits roll, there is a post-credit scene, and it is an island, and Jumanji is on this island, and it is making the drumming sounds, and then it cuts to black. And that is the end of Jumanji. And just let me say, Robin Williams was such a great actor. And he will live on in all the movies that he does. And and I love and I and 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 I love Jumanji. He did a wonderful job in this movie. Bye, and see you guys in my next